Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who wasted a bunch of time watching footage on Myron Santos. And I'm here to talk about Sean Woodson versus Dennis Buzukja. Credit to both these guys. Buzukja stepping in on short notice, and Woodson taking on like four different guys, or signing up to take on four different guys just this week alone. Dennis, he's 11-2 as a pro, 25 years old, and he's given up 5 inches of height and 8.5 inches of reach to 31-year-old Woodson, who is 9-1-1. Buzukja's got more experience by a little bit, but definitely not near anywhere the value of the experience that Woodson has. Dennis Buzukja's only fought a few good guys. He's got 2 losses, one of them being to a good guy, Melsik Bagdasaryan. That was his first fight on the Contender Series. He's fought twice on the Contender Series. He was outpointed by Melsik, definitely outstruck, and even in the end, he was outgrappled for a bit, but he still was very competitive in that fight, on the ground and on the feet. He tossed Melsik to the ground and hit another takedown on him, and he also worked some good striking as well. He's a very good conventional striker, boxing primarily, but he also rips great kicks. He was ripping kicks down low and to the body, which that's what he's going to need against Sean Woodson. I don't think he should be trying to, win the battle of the jabs. Even though he's got a great jab, he's fighting a guy with 9 inches of reach on him. Buzukja's other loss comes also by decision, and it's to Nick Rodriguez, this wrestler who beat him in his second fight. It was a fight where he was definitely out-grappled. You could see he was still a dangerous enough striker, very raw, and he just wasn't sound defensively. That was just inexperience, not circling out, getting sucked into a clinch, and he got ripped to the mat repeatedly, but in the end, he was defending the takedown in round 3, and I suppose that's something, even though he was still crowded against the fence. But really, the point is, that loss was almost entirely due to wrestling, and it was early in his career. And he might need wrestling here to beat Woodson. On the feet, he's going to need to mix up the attacks and definitely work the body and legs, but he's going to need wrestling as well. I don't think much of him as a wrestler, but he's definitely not bad. He can hit a good takedown. I've seen him hit plenty, and I've seen him handle some wrestlers. That guy, Caleo Romero, on the Contender Series, I was a wrestler, and he, even though he was taken down, he did outlast the guy and took away his wrestling. So altogether, his wrestling might not be that bad, but he's going to need some good offensive wrestling and some well-timed shots on Sean Woodson, and also some well-timed counter strikes, to the body and legs preferably. He has grit. I mean, he's only lost twice. It's both by decision. And he was in a war, I'd say, with this guy Tim Dooling, a regional guy who's a very gritty son of a bitch. And that was a war. They both hurt each other, even though Dennis hurt him harder more often. And in the end, even if Buzukja may not have been the fresher guy in the end, he definitely did enough to win the fight, and both guys were tough enough to make it to the final bell. So that was a good win. But that's really it. The guy Romero, Tim Dooling, he doesn't have too many great wins, and he's on a killer winning streak right now. It's just over real, middle of the pack to lower level regional guys. His last win does come by submission. It's important to mention that again. And, whatever. Showed he's got more than one way to win, or he's whatever. At least it occurs to him that the submission is possible. And he does train, of course, with Matt Serra and Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili. So you would think he's got something going there. But primarily, he's a striker. And he's going up against another pure striker in Sean Woodson. Woodson does have one submission, but it's in his first fight, and it's a guillotine against a guy who just lost like 10 times by submission. So, whatever. But primarily, Woodson is a boxer. He's a guy that's got significant reach in just about every fight, and he's got great combination boxing. Not the most powerful guy. I don't think he'll ever win the power battle, which is the overhand right power. I think, for him to knock you unconscious, he probably needs to land a flying knee, which is how he knocked Terrence McKinney out. But he also steamrolled Colin Anglin. That was with body shots, though. I suppose those count as knockouts. And he does have incredible body shots. I mean, that's just a credit to his technical boxing. He's just got great hands, and he mixes shit up really well. And I think, especially guys that are vulnerable to the body, Woodson with his shot placement and the reach to complement his boxing, he's going to rip a lot of guys to the body. But he does have some vulnerabilities. We've seen him controlled plenty of times. Yusuf Zalal, Terrence McKinney, as I mentioned. But his one loss comes by submission, and it's in round 3 to Julian Erosa. Julian Erosa is his division's Gerald Meerschaert, just a fucking monster in round 3. If you don't get him out of there early, he's probably going to win by submission in round 3. Erosa likes the Darce, whereas Meerschaert likes the guillotine, I guess. But that was a fight in which maybe his lack of power, it really speaks most to his lack of power, not being able to crack the chin of Erosa, who's historically had a pretty bad chin, and then found himself in round 3 with a nifty submission artist like that. He was a little more fatigued, sucking wind against the cage, and Erosa snatched his neck. So, showed a little vulnerability there, obviously, but he showed a lot more vulnerability, in my opinion, in his draw against Luis Saldana. That was a fight in which Saldana, I still think, won the decision. They got that one wrong, and that's even with the point deduction. But regardless of what the scorecard was and whatever, Saldana knocked Woodson down twice. Badly. Well, the first time was a nice check left hook. The second time was a jab. You never want to get knocked down with a jab. And then concussed him, I want to say, with a running knee as he was on all fours, or, 2 fours, whatever the fuck. He was definitely down, though, and he got hit with a knee, and it was illegal. That's the reason for the point deduction and eventually the draw, but it's still a major strike against his durability. He was fucked up in that fight, and he was fucked up before the knee, well before the knee. So, credit to him, though, for surviving, I'll say that. I remember when he got up and I found out they were restarting the fight, I said there's no way he makes it to the final bell with the way he just looked. He's going to get knocked down by the next jab and then put away with ground and pound. And even though, again, I thought he lost, he still made it close enough where he ended up putting himself in the realm of getting a draw, and that's what happened. So you got to give him credit for his recovering there, but overall he looks a lot less, reliable, looks a lot less durable. And that's just his chin. He is a skeleton. Skeletons have weak chins, and they also have weak legs. So I think he's definitely vulnerable in a lot of ways. And, of course, with the wrestling and the grappling, if Buzukja is able to implement it, he can definitely beat Sean Woodson. A lot of guys can, just because he's so limited as a fighter. But considering that Dennis Buzukja is kind of a stylistically favorable matchup anyway, and that he likes to strike, and he's got good technical striking, I'm picking Sean Woodson to win here. Sean Woodson has a 9-inch reach advantage. He hasn't been finished by strikes, even though he looks very vulnerable. And Dennis Buzukja, he's only got 4 finishes in his 11 wins. It's not like he's the most deadly striker himself. So I'm thinking the numbers kind of break in Woodson's favor. And I think Woodson should win this fight, especially considering that he is the fresher fighter. He's a guy that's been training for a hard 15-minute UFC fight for a full camp now, even if there have been a couple of curveballs. So I'm thinking Woodson wins. I don't think it'll be something early. I don't think it'll be anything concussive, but I think it could be a late stoppage or a decision, of course. But I imagine Sean Woodson will be the fresher guy in the end, and I imagine Sean Woodson will be winning the jousting battle. And even on the inside, if there's, if you can avoid the clinch and whatever, that guy can rip you up in tight as well. You don't want to leave your body open to him. So I'm picking Sean Woodson to win. I bet on him at -175. I like Dennis Buzukja a lot, and he's a Cerro Longo guy, so I always root for these guys. But I'm trying to be objective, and I think Sean Woodson should definitely win this fight. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.